Okay, so welcome and good afternoon, everybody. We have a few announcements to do today, starting with the agenda for the President this week. This morning, the President participated in the so-called interinstitutional actors meeting with the President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, the President of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, and the President of the Eurogroup, Pascal Donohoe, at the Council. Now, tomorrow, the President von der Leyen, will participate in the plenary joint debate on European Council meetings and European security. In the afternoon and in Strasbourg, of course, she will chair the meeting of the College of Commissioners. Then on Thursday, President von der Leyen will be in Cape Town, South Africa, and together with the President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, she will meet with the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, and at that occasion she will also participate at the EU South Africa Summit. So this is it for the agenda of the President. Now, a few items to recall regarding press arrangements this week. Following the meeting of the heads of cabinet, the weekly meeting that took place this morning, we can confirm that the College will go ahead with the adoption tomorrow in Strasbourg of the Critical Medicines Act, as well as the proposal for a regulation establishing a common system for the return of third country nationals staying illegally in the Union, shortly known as the returns regulation. We will inform you also of further press events in relation to the College meeting later today via our usual channels. And there will be already today a technical briefing under embargo at 1:30 p.m., so shortly after this midday, in this press room on the Critical Medicines Act due for adoption tomorrow. Et il y a aussi plusieurs réunions du Conseil. Donc, à Bruxelles, aujourd'hui, les ministres chargés de l'emploi et des affaires sociales se réunissent pour une réunion du Conseil emploi, politique sociale, santé et consommateurs. Il y aura un focus sur les politiques sociales. La Commission y sera représentée par la vice-présidente exécutive Roxana Minzato. Et en termes d'agenda, il y aura notamment un débat d'orientation sur les obstacles qui empêchent les personnes âgées de rester ou de retourner dans le monde du travail, ainsi que sur le paquet d'automne du semestre européen. Les ministres vont examiner également la contribution du Conseil aux recommandations économiques pour la zone euro en 2025 pour ce qui concerne l'emploi et les questions sociales. L'idée, c'est qu'ils adoptent aussi un rapport conjoint sur l'emploi 2025 et valident les conclusions du Conseil à ce sujet. Et puis, à l'issue de la réunion, la présidence polonaise et la vice-présidente exécutive Minzato donneront une conférence de presse vers 14h45 aujourd'hui. Donc, nous vous invitons, comme d'habitude, à y poser vos questions sur ces sujets. Et deuxièmement, il y a lieu une réunion de l'Eurogroupe aujourd'hui, au cours de laquelle la Commission sera représentée par le commissaire Dombrovskis. Les ministres feront notamment le point sur les perspectives économiques dans la zone euro, sur la base des présentations de la Commission européenne et de la Banque centrale européenne. Et puis, ils procéderont à un échange de vues sur la coordination des politiques budgétaires au sein de la zone euro et discuteront des principaux défis auxquels ils font face. Et donc, on peut aussi annoncer une deuxième conférence de presse aujourd'hui avec le commissaire Dombrovskis qui suivra cette réunion de l'Eurogroupe aux alentours de 19h ce soir. Donc, encore une fois, nous vous invitons à réserver vos questions relatives à l'Eurogroupe à cette conférence de presse dédiée. And finally, I want to flag an update that I know you've been long looking and asking for. We have now the full list of the Commissioners' cabinets published in our web pages with all the contact details, and we know this has been something that you have long been asking for. So these are our announcements today, and we can start with your questions, starting here in the front, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Lily from Reuters. I have two questions. The first is Romania's Central Election Authority has barred far-right candidate Călin Gheorghiu from running in the rerun of the presidential election. Do you have a reaction to that? And the second thing is just to follow up on the recent statement you had on the situation in Syria. The statement said, quote, that you condemn, quote, the recent attacks reportedly by pro-Assad elements on interim government forces. I was wondering if you could clarify that a bit. What reports were you referring to, and why was it worded that way? Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we have two questions. We start with the first one on the elections, on the Romanian elections. Yes, Marcus, please.
Thank you very much. We have no comment on the decision by the Central Electoral Bureau in Romania. Let us be very clear here. Elections are a national competence, and the Commission does not comment on the Romanian electoral process, which is a matter for the Romanian authorities and ultimately the Romanian people.
Good. Before I give the floor to Anita for your second question on Syria, any other questions to Marcus? On justice and home affairs, so that we avoid having to switch here very often. Yes, for Marcus? Yes. So then when we come back to your questions, to your question on Syria.
Yes, thank you. Magnus with Euractiv. Just to push you a bit on it, does the European Commission have complete trust in the Romanians' authorities' ability to take this kind of, you should say, very drastic decision? We've seen a lot of pushback from especially right-wing commentators online since the decision has been made that this is indeed a meddling in democracy. He was, after all, the candidate who got the most votes in the first now cancelled round of presidential elections.
Thank you very much. Again, the Commission does not interfere in national elections in any way. National authorities are in charge of national elections, and ultimately elections are for the people in each member state.
Good. Any other question for Marcus? No? Then we thank you, Marcus. And Anita on Syria.
For your question, and indeed reference to our spokes statement this Saturday. Indeed, we confirmed that the initial attacks were perpetrated by pro-Assad forces, and as per usual, we are having our information from on the ground with our delegation and member states reporting. We are all alarmed by the situation and the developments in Syria, which started with the attacks, which led to reported killings of innocent civilians, and all this reporting are horrendous. We have seen the interim authorities have reacted quickly, and we demand that the perpetrators need to be brought to justice.
Yes. To Anita? Yes, Jorge?
Yes, it's to follow up on this issue of Syria and the violence. Just to be clear, you're placing the responsibility on the violence on both sides because the reports indicate that it's pro-Assad loyalists but also loyal forces to the new government. So are you placing responsibility on both sides? And second question, given the presumed involvement of pro-government forces in this violence, are you willing to reconsider your approach to the new government of Syria and the lifting of sanctions that you just agreed a few weeks ago? Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's very important that the facts are first established. We have seen a lot of manipulation of the information, a lot of disinformation, misinformation. So this needs to be fully established because we have seen different strands of information. And this is why we also support the Commission of Inquiry that has been now established by the authorities, and we are expecting to see the results of that.
Thank you, Anita. To Anita? Yes, please.
Anita, in the communique over the weekend, you mentioned, you refer to external actors. Do you have credible information about some proxies involvement, whether from Iran, Russia, or others in Syria in these events? And what's happening in Syria today has any impact on the upcoming conference next Monday? And could you confirm that the Foreign Affairs Minister of Syria is invited? And if you allow me another question regarding to Syria, looking to what's going on in Syria, whether in the south, where Israel is occupying part of the south of Syria, the Kurds in the northeast, the element of Assad in the western part of Syria, do you believe or do you think in your assessment that the transition authorities are controlling the situation in Syria, or there is a risk that the situation can go out of control? Thank you.
Thank you. I will start with the first questions, and the latter one I will leave it for now with a general answer to say that we are all having an interest in the stabilization of Syria, and it's important that the work towards that happens, and this can only happen with an inclusive transition because there's no alternative to that. Now on the Syria conference next Monday, indeed this will be a very important occasion to continue exchanging with the authorities on the situation on the ground, and also to understand how the EU can support best. On our side, we should spare no effort in support of a peaceful and inclusive transition away from any foreign interference, which guarantees the rights of all Syrians without distinctions.
Still to Anita? Yes, in the back. Yes, it's you. Not on Syria. Okay. Still on Syria? Any question? I think it was all that we can say indeed at the moment.
And maybe on the Syrian MFA, Nureddin.
Yes, on the
yes,
conference indeed.
It is, an invite was sent, yes.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Vitaly Sizov, UATV. On negotiation between United States and Ukraine in Saudi Arabia, are you in contact with Ukrainian side, and do you agree position, and what do you expect from this negotiation? And maybe you already have the candidate who may represent EU during the future peace negotiation. Thank you.
Thank you. I will not go into the specific of this bilateral meeting. I will just want to reiterate once more our position that we have a common interest in a just and lasting peace in Ukraine, and this is what we have been doing throughout. From day one, we have been standing by Ukraine and ensuring that Ukraine is strong and that we bring Ukraine in a very strong position in the battlefield so they can be also strong at the negotiation table.
On Ukraine still? Yes, please.
Thanks very much. I'm Alex Carrier for the Kyiv Independent. You say that you want Ukraine to remain strong on the battlefield. The cut-off of US intelligence has weakened them significantly on the battlefield. Does the Commission want to see that decision reversed in these talks? It's something that's been put on the table. More broadly, what is your expectation? And to complement my colleague's question, President von der Leyen referred to the US as an ally on Sunday. Have you spoken to your ally about the Commission's expectations for this meeting? Thank you.
So I will start first on in terms of our support to Ukraine, which has been gone throughout all strands, from the humanitarian, financial, military aid leading to almost 140 billion euro that has been sent to Ukraine. We're the leading donor, and when it comes also to the military assistance, equally on par with the US. So our position is to put Ukraine in a position of strength throughout all means necessary, and do so in matching Ukraine's needs.
And on your question, whether this has been put forward to the US, in all contexts that have been taken place, we have reiterated at all levels precisely that it is in Ukraine's interest, in Europe's interest, and ultimately also in the US interest to put Ukraine in a position of strength before entering into peace negotiations. So this has been indeed reiterated several times. Yes, follow up.
Thank you for this. Just again, to press the point on this meeting specifically, what are the Commission's hopes from an outcome? And you say that it's been communicated at all levels regularly. Has it been communicated in the context of this very important meeting? Thank you.
I'm not aware of any contact in the context of this specific meeting, but it's worth recalling that President von der Leyen has met President Zelensky as recently as last Thursday at the European Council, so I do not exclude that it could have come up in this context also. Now, I see an online question also on Ukraine from Rose Suniva.
Hello, hi.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I just had a quick follow-up on that. Sorry, I'm in the train. I had a quick follow-up on that, specifically in the talks in Ukraine. Do you have any comment to make on the role of Saudi?
It's a question on the move, we see. Good. We move on. Still on Ukraine? Yes?
Tetiana Vysotska, European Pravda, Espresso TV Ukraine. I want to have the follow-up of bilateral communication of the EU and US. This week, Kaja Kallas is going to United States, to Washington, and then to Canada. Are there any meetings scheduled between High Representative and U.S. authorities in the United States and in Canada? Will she finally meet Marco Rubio, who will be present on this event, the meeting of the foreign ministers of J7?
Yes, Anita.
Thank you very much. So indeed, on the 11th of March, the High Representative will be making her first address to the United UN Security Council on the cooperation between the EU and UN, and after that she will have her press remarks that we'll invite you also to listen in. She will also meet with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and after that the High Representative will attend the G7 Foreign Affairs meeting in Quebec. If any further other details on encounters with our US counterparts, I can further let you know.
Good. Still Ukraine? Let's take your question then.
Hi, Anna Węglarczyk, TVP Info, Polish national broadcaster. It's kind of a Ukraine-related question. Is Commission aware of the recent exchange between Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski and Marco Rubio and Elon Musk about the access to the Starlink? And if so, what's your comment on it?
Okay. Let's see if we have still questions to Anita. which reminds me that we had also parked a question from Jennifer, but I probably already replied. Good. So still on Ukraine. So still in Ukraine, we finalize the questions on Ukraine before moving on. So if you don't mind, since you already had the floor, I will just go here. Well, you actually also had the floor, but okay.
It's very short. What is the European Union expectation from the talks in Riyadh between the American and the Ukrainian tomorrow? Thank you.
So this will be for our counterparts to say, but I can tell you what our expectation is and what our hope is. Our hope is for a strong Ukraine and for a just and lasting peace. And no one wants this more than the Ukrainians. And we're all contributing and pulling all the efforts to ensure that.
Okay. Yes, please.
I'm actually asking Suneva's question because I understand she went through a tunnel on the train. The question that Suneva wanted to ask was about the role of Saudi Arabia in these talks, whether or not Saudi Arabia is viewed by the Commission as a helpful partner, if you welcome that cooperation, particularly as Marco Rubio and President Zelensky will both be meeting Mohammed bin Salman. What is your view of Saudi Arabia's role in these negotiations? Thank you.
Very short, yes, we need all actors to support, to rally, to pull all their efforts to support Ukraine.
Good. So we conclude on Ukraine, and now we can hand on to. There was one question still. Yes. Sorry, I didn't see it. Didn't see the hand.
Thank you, Magnus. Again, with Euractiv. Last night, U.S. President Donald Trump posted, or truthed, whatever you call it, on his own social media about Greenland and his support for their right to self-determination. Does the European Commission see this as election meddling, also considering the fact that your predecessor, Anita Pelestano, had very stern words for Russia when that party intervened specifically in recent elections or in Moldova? Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing has changed. Our position is the same as also previously delivered on Greenland. The EU will continue to uphold the principle of territorial integrity and the inviolability of borders and the UN Charter. Preserving the territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark and the sovereignty and the inviolability of its border is essential for the European Union, and the EU is fully supporting the Kingdom of Denmark.
Good. Then we can move on to Thomas to address the question on Starlink. Thank you, Anita.
Good afternoon. So no particular comments to make on the exchanges between the Polish authorities and the US counterparts. What I can recall is indeed that we, of course, remain committed and we are ready to support Ukraine with GovSatcom until IRIS² is fully operational. So we have indeed satellite capabilities in the EU and we are ready to support Ukraine if needed.
Thank you. Yes, Jennifer.
Angela Skujins from TVP World. As an aside to these comments, does the European Commission see Radek Sikorski as a small man? But also, does this not represent a growing rift between the EU and the US? We have Elon Musk, a member of Trump's de facto cabinet, insulting a senior Polish politician. How does the EU expect to close this rift that seems to be growing? Thank you.
We really have no interest in commenting all these tweets and exchanges which indeed sometimes derail. So we will not go further into it. I don't think it would be helpful. Yes, Jan.
Yeah, it's a question about US and EU relations, but also digital policy. I understand that powerful US Representative Jim Jordan has been sending several letters to members of the European Commissions inquiring on all sorts of digital regulations, essentially asking the EU to explain why the DSA and the DMA are being wielded as cudgels against US companies. I'd like to know whether you could disclose how many letters the Commission has received, whether the members of the Commissions have responded, and whether the Commission will be publishing the answers to all these billets doux.
Thanks, Jan. Indeed.
How many?
Several letters. One to EVP Virkkunen, for sure. This one was replied. Another one was sent, a joint letter to EVP Virkkunen and EVP Ribera, more focused on the DMA. A reply was sent too. And there is also a letter that reached the President. I would need to check the status of this one. But indeed, I mean, without disclosing any content, because, I mean, again, these letters do not have to be published. Like the letter from Jim Jordan himself was also not published. We, I mean, of course, respect confidentiality here, but we're, of course, always happy to recall the provisions of our legislation and the importance of our legislation, and this was done.
To Thomas? Yes, please.
Thank you. Olena Abramovich, Radio Free Europe, Ukrainian Service and Current Time TV. I have also a follow-up on this issue regarding Starlink. I was wondering, there were some reports that there are some companies in Europe trying to merge to come up with an initiative which would be like European alternative to American Starlink. So I was wondering, is it discussed on EU level to support any kind of initiatives which could speed up this kind of projects? Thank you.
I mean, thanks for the question. We are working very closely with our industry in this sector. I mean, this was also highlighted earlier this year at the European Space Conference, where we were working together with all the important players. Now, when it comes to IRIS², already in December of last year, we have signed the consortium agreement. So, again, I mean, we are really working here together with member states, together with the industry, to have the best possible project that will be IRIS² by 2030 at the latest. So we're indeed fully working to get the best services for our member states and companies and citizens.
Good. Still questions to Thomas? Yes? Lorenzo.
Yes. Thomas, il y a toujours le problème de comment remplacer Starlink. Si maintenant, on a vu ce qui s'est passé hier, on en a parlé tout à l'heure, si Starlink est retiré, si la Pologne, maintenant c'est la Pologne qui paie pour le service sur l'Ukraine d'observation satellitaire, si ce service n'est plus disponible parce que comme c'est la décision de Elon Musk, il a menacé ça, mais si ça arrive, qu'est-ce qu'on va faire? Je veux dire, comment on garantit que l'observation satellitaire puisse servir à la défense de l'Ukraine et à la défense de l'Europe en général, mais maintenant, à la défense de l'Ukraine, ça serait un problème parce que comment on les remplace?
Tout à fait d'accord, et c'est pour ça qu'on a effectivement des capacités existantes. Donc d'une part, en termes de connectivité, on peut fournir aujourd'hui ce dont l'Ukraine aurait potentiellement besoin en cas de retrait, ce qui de nouveau ne semble pas être le cas au vu des derniers échanges. Ensuite, effectivement, au niveau des capacités militaires, des besoins peuvent bien entendu émerger dans le contexte actuel, et ces besoins peuvent être fournis également depuis l'Union européenne, mais ça, ce serait plus des contrats commerciaux qui devraient être signés.
Yes, David, please.
Thank you. David Price, Your Democracy. On the issue that Jan raised about the American positions, the Americans have a very open policy about publishing letters, and I wonder whether if there was obviously if there's a mutual agreement to publish both sides of the letters, it would be very useful for journalists and for the general public. Are any efforts being made to have mutual agreement on publishing such letters because of the American preponderance in this field?
Have we published any? I don't know if we published any.
No, what I would recall is that indeed, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the publication of the letter is our prerogative, but I mean, we're very transparent here. We confirm when we receive a letter, we confirm when the letter is sent, and usually we even can give hints on what was sent and the reasoning behind it. So I guess that, generally speaking, we are quite transparent when it comes to these letters from our side.
Thank you, Thomas. Lawrence, is it a follow-up on this?
Désolé, Thomas, tu as dit donc qu'il faudrait signer des contrats privés pour remplacer Starlink. Mais avec qui? Avec Starlink?
Non, effectivement, on a ici, au sein de l'Union européenne, on a des capacités aussi au niveau militaire, mais ces capacités-là ne font pas nécessairement partie de GovSatcom, qui est donc, comme je te l'ai dit, une plateforme publique de pooling and sharing, où on peut utiliser et fournir les capacités des États membres à d'autres entités qui pourraient en avoir besoin. Maintenant, pour ce qui est purement du volet militaire, là encore, on a des capacités, mais là, on est plus dans un cadre commercial avec des entreprises privées.
D'autres questions pour Thomas? Okay, if it's not the case, we can take questions on different topics. Yes, please.
So David Thomas from M&I. I've got a question for Balázs, I think.
So listen to the question first.
On the national escape clauses. Yeah.
For Balázs.
Yeah, and specifically on the German request that the 4-year national escape clauses that the Commission proposed should be made at least longer term. Is that doable under the current economic governance regime, or would it require a review? And just in general, what your thoughts are about that, and will any new or modified proposal be in the white paper on March the 19th? Thank you.
Okay, indeed. So giving further flexibilities to member states in the fiscal realm is one of the key pillars of the Rearm Europe initiative indeed. So for now, the Commission is looking at a period of 4 years. Why? Because it is incredibly important to combine fiscal leeway in a responsible fashion with fiscal discipline. So that's the fundamental reason why, for now, we are looking at a 4-year period. If all member states take advantage of what we propose here, so increasing their defense expenditure by 1.5% of the GDP by 2028, that would pump basically 650 billion euro into the EU economy for defense projects. Now, that's already quite significant. Obviously, we have read the European Council conclusions. The European Council calls on the Commission to keep an open mind and potentially explore additional measures. So, obviously, if a member state has a particular idea in this regard, we are there to listen. What is important is to understand, for example, you referred to Germany, to understand what is behind this German request. So in that regard, of course, the Commission is available. We will listen to the arguments, but fundamentally we are fixated on this 4-year period at this point in time.
And we will be putting forward, as you know, concrete proposals in this regard in advance of the next European Council. Good. Any other question to Balázs? No. We change subject. Yes, David.
Thank you, Paula. David Price, Your Democracy. You mentioned at the beginning that you're publishing the list of cabinet members' nationality, which a lot of people have been waiting for, and thank you for that. I would ask, are you also publishing the political adherence of the commissioners, the party to which they belong? Are you publishing that list? I have another question afterwards on a different subject.
David, no, usually we never publish the affiliation of the members of the college, so this would be new indeed. I recall that you had asked for this at some point. It's also fair to say, and we said that we would look into it. But in terms of publication, this is not something that it's part of our usual publication when we go ahead with the formation of the cabinets. Right. And you wanted to add something? Yes.
No, it's not the cabinet. It's the commissioners themselves.
Commissioners themselves. Okay.
So I think the public has a right to know if the commissioners are continuing members of political parties, and this is pretty fundamental for democracy.
Yeah. Understood your question, David, as referring to the commissioners.
Yeah, to my knowledge, this is actually publicly available, this piece of information. Why? Because commissioners have to submit what we call a declaration of interests, and in that document, which is publicly available, it is stated if they have a political affiliation and what type of political affiliation they have. So we can be in touch. I can send you these links after midday, and then the information can be retrieved in this fashion.
Good. Okay. Any other question? I have a question online, which will be for Olaf, on the India-EU FTA. India-EU or EU-India FTA. Olaf, if you don't mind, and that is from Garg Ishan. Garg, you're still there? Or Ishan, I should say. No luck today with our online participants. Good. Well, if you hear us, don't hesitate to get back to you in writing. Any other questions? Yes, from Ukraine? But not on Ukraine.
Sorry, not for Olaf, but for Anna Kaisa, I think.
Okay, let us see.
The question is about the gas transit via Ukraine and Orban and Fico interests. In the conclusions of the Council last week, it was mentioned that the Commission, Slovakia and Hungary have to intensify the efforts to solve to find the solution about the gas transit via Ukraine. And also, Mr. Fico, he mentions that it may be not Russian, but Azerbaijani gas, who will come back to Ukrainian pipeline to go to Europe. What do you know about that, and what will be the efforts of the Commission to solve this issue? And maybe some meetings are already scheduled or something like that. Thank you so much.
Thank you indeed. It's for Anna Kaisa. Sorry, Olaf.
So thanks a lot for these many questions. So as we've been saying before, and also in line with the conclusions from the Council, ensuring energy security of our member states is obviously our priority. And as regards using any Ukrainian infrastructure, it is up to Ukraine to decide how they want to run their pipeline system. As regards what we are discussing and how we are approaching this, we are open to solutions that are in line with our Repower EU objective of phasing out Russian energy imports. So this is always the North Star when we are in contact with those member states who are mostly concerned, meaning Hungary and Slovakia. So basically, since the transit of Russian gas expired or stopped at the end of last year. There have been no security supply concerns. And as also before the Council and as mandated by the Council, we have been in close and regular contact with Slovakia, Hungary and Ukraine on this issue. And we are taking into consideration all the concerns that Slovakia and Hungary have brought forward.
Thank you, Anna Kaiser. Any other questions? Yes, there in the back.
Hi, Camille Condessu from AFP. I just wanted to know if you had a reaction to Mark Carney being designated as the next Prime Minister of Canada. Thank you.
Yeah. No reaction to the nomination. Yes. Sorry, I forgot you. Can you remind me of your name?
My name's Alex Cadier, but I'm actually asking Ishan Garb's question, so I seem to be the tech support for the Brussels Press Pack today. So this is for Olaf. Sorry to get your steps in again. So the first question is, could you provide some context as to why the India-EU FTA has been in the making for about a decade and still isn't finalised? The second question is, what's your position on India seeking for exemptions for smaller company exports for CBAM, so for smaller companies to be exempted from CBAM? Thanks.
Thanks for the question. So on the timelines for any negotiation between the European Union and a partner, you know, they take as long as they take. And as we always say, substance trumps speed. Sometimes they can take a long time, as with the famous Mercosur negotiations, which concluded in December. But the point is that with the right political will and with this agreed understanding that substance is the important thing, you can get there. So rather than focus on how long they have taken to date, I think it's appropriate to focus on the commitment made by President von der Leyen and Prime Minister Modi last week, the week before, that we're going to try and get these talks done before the end of this year. It's a really ambitious commitment, and that will certainly be hopefully be the engine that drives the process forward. And as to the question about technical exemptions and so on, we're not going to go into that today. A negotiating round is taking place this precise week in Brussels, and these and many other topics will be discussed, but those are for the technical discussions, not for us to parse here from the midday. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Olaf. Good. And no other questions? David, is it to Olaf? Nope. Lorenzo, Olaf? Clients for Olaf?
The fact of exempting, I mean, you say is not a discussion for today, but just a clarification, the fact of exempting small companies, is it not foreseen and included also in the omnibus proposal? So they would be excluded anyway, according to the omnibus proposal. Am I right?
Thanks for your question, Lorenzo. In this case, potentially your expertise is beyond mine, and I'll have to double-check and come back to you.
If I remember correctly, it's the reporting that is exempted, right, Lorenzo? But indeed, we can double-check. The idea is that the reporting. But we can check so as to be absolutely sure of the reply. Good. Any other question to Olaf? Good. Any other subject? David.
It's a question on journalistic access to the press room. It's personal, and apparently a lot of other journalists are involved as well. I put a request for a laissez-passer in January, and I still haven't received it. It's in committee, it seems. Apparently a lot of other journalists are in this position, and it seems that it was deliberately not decided upon before the end of last month by the Commission. And I'm wondering what the policy is, and I would also like to have the documents from the committee so we know the journalists know what the process is, because it's very much a black hole as far as I'm concerned. I'd like to know what goes on and how the decisions are made. It is inconvenient if it's not gone through in a normal speed. I mean, I've been around for a few years. I've seen this accreditation take place. So can you, number one, tell me what's going on generally, and secondarily, give me the documents from the accreditation process and why certain things are actually stopped. It was stopped at the end of last month.
Okay, David. So I'm not familiar with any stopping of the accreditation process. Let me be very clear about it. There is the annual accreditation process which is going on, and as you know, it's plus 800 plus journalists who are accredited. So this needs to go through a process with colleagues in the team. So there's no suspension whatsoever. We are going through the requests to renovate the accreditation, and it takes time, and we expect to come back to all of you concerned as quickly as possible. Some, I think, have already received the confirmation, and it's really a question just of being able to process all the requests. Good. Any other question? Yes.
Angela Scoogens from TVP World. Before the chaos of the European Council summit last week, we heard Poland's interior minister say that it was not possible for Poland to implement the National Implementation Plan for the Migration and Asylum Act. This was when he was asked point blank whether he would submit a plan before that June 2026 deadline, because this is what we were hearing from the European Commission, that there could be hope, and he said this was not possible. And my colleague Jorge asked the Migration Commissioner whether he would launch infringement proceedings against Poland for not implementing the plan. He didn't get a response. So what is the European Commission's position on this? Will it launch infringement proceedings against Poland? What are the next steps? Because we heard from the Interior Minister this is not on the agenda at all to submit it before June 2026. Thank you.
Yes, Marcus, do you want to come up again and reply to that?
Thank you very much. Maybe a general word on the pact. The pact will enter into application mid-2026. There is no doubt about that. The Commission is in close contact with all Member States and supports, where necessary, to ensure that all Member States are ready by then. Once adopted, EU law is binding on all concerned Member States, and once entered into application, the legal instruments of the pact will be binding on all Member States. The pact considers the specific migratory situation of each Member State and provides the necessary flexibility to address their needs. This is the case, for instance, for providing solidarity to Member States under pressure. Now, if a Member State risks delaying or even undermining the implementation of the pact, the Commission will need to take the necessary measures.
In other words, the pact is not yet in force, so we cannot speak of an infringing member state if something is not in force. And so the time, le moment venu, we will need to look into that again. Yes?
What would be the necessary measures that the European Commission would undertake if it wasn't implemented? Thank you.
I think it's really premature. We're not there yet. And we are doing as we do always, and I'm sorry, Marcus, but this is a general, it could be with any other piece of legislation. Our objective is never to go for infringement processes, right? We try to make sure that we work very closely with the member states in assisting them to implement the legislation. And then, if indeed in the worst comes worst situation there is an infringement, then it's when we need to take action. But we are, as Marcus said, working closely with all member states so that we do not have to come to that point that we would need to infringe. Good. Lorenzo.
Yes, sorry. The question is, in the pact, there are some regulations in particular, these regulations foresee a form of solidarity among member states when there are some member states that are under pressure. This solidarity means the possibility to have temporary relocation of migrants, or support in other forms like money or operational support. Now the question is, what does the pact, the regulations that are in the pact, what do they foresee in case one member state, anyone, doesn't respect this? What are the weapons, if you want, the means, the instruments that the Commission has to enforce the pact? This is the question. So, is there, I'm more precise, is there for the Commission the power, the possibility to open an infringement procedure against the member states that are not respecting the rules, and go then to the Court of Justice to impose the respect of the legislation? This is the question. It is not a political question. It is a technical question on the way the rules work. And you are the guardian of the treaties, so that's the answer we are seeking. Thank you.
So as you said, the Commission is the guardian of the treaties, so indeed, if EU legislation is violated, it is the prerogative of the Commission to open an infringement process. Good. Any other question? No? Then we conclude today's midday. Wish you a good afternoon and a good week. Thank you.